The following presentation, My Ability, is brought to you commercial-free by these sponsors.
I know we have disabilities, but we can do it no matter what.
Is it possible to be thankful for what you don't have? To be thankful for what you lost at some point in your life?
And the next thing I know, it's like a month later, my wife's waking me up telling me they have to cut my arms and my legs off.
Is it possible that a limitation can make you better, stronger, more insightful, more driven?
Instead of being encouraged, everyone kept telling me, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this. And so I set out to prove them wrong.
You don't know the feeling you get being able to stand after being told that you'll be in a wheelchair the rest of your life.
We take you along on their journeys to do things no one thought would be possible. Quad Cityans turning their so-called disabilities into showcases for their abilities. My Ability, a TV6 Cares for You special. Hi, I'm Gary Metivier, and welcome to Wharton Fieldhouse. This place has so many incredible stories to tell, dating all the way back to the 1920s with amazing events. But it's the people that make this place so special. People like Desmond and Dex, who inspire us with their actions and their words in this house. Summer, a slow time of year for a superfan. Baseball is winding down. Basketball season seems so far away.
I get up the Whiteys, Happy Joes, Adolphs, and even up to quite a point down there at the Bad Boys Pizza.
Mowing grass and making sure that everyone is in form.
You can notice how it's feeling out here. It's kind of feeling very unstable.
On this day, Dex is warning about the possibility of bad weather.
Maybe getting information out people and that, and it'll help them a lot. When they know about something, they can protect themselves better.
Something he has done for decades. But on his rounds, he lost a prized possession. His trusty mower with its wobbly wheels, chipped paint, and worn blades from helping so many people.
The power mower flew out the back end of the truck.
So he drove that old truck all around town, hoping to find it. No luck. He called on his closest friend, a friend since the 70s. Terry Christopher has always been there.
When I put this out there, I just wanted to find his mower, maybe.
The search was on, but the mower was gone. But Dex found something else. He discovered he had plenty of fans of his own.
But those kids, it means something for him to be at those games. They've made big figureheads of him and brought him in for the games, and they've had actual special Dex nights. But those are where those kids really generate those memories that will last a lifetime.
So many of those fans each giving a little back. So many that soon all of that little turned into something big. Big enough to get a new mower. And so much more.
What do you think, Dex?
Pretty good.
Well, the new mower, like reassuring everything's okay. That's the best way I can put it there.
Now Dex is back to work, back to mowing, giving weather warnings, and preparing for the fall.
Favorite thing?
Yeah.
Well, when the basketball season gets around here.
Preparing to be back in his home away from home, surrounded by the superfans' biggest fans. None of our lives are perfect, of course. All of us suffer some kind of setback and challenges throughout our lives. You know, life can sometimes really knock you down. But of course, it's how you get back up that defines you and your character. You're about to meet two men who have plenty of character. Patrick and Matt were knocked down, but they faced the extreme and stood again. It's Friday night, bowling league night. This Moline mainstay is packed. Some working toward the perfect game. Others just having fun trying to break 100. Many have been coming here for years. the Davis brothers among them.
I've been bowling on leagues since I was 5 years old. So 40 years I've done this. I grew up in this bowling alley.
Older brother Craig was his mentor.
Local legend Craig Davis. He had 25, 300 games, and he pretty much taught me how to bowl along with my mom and my dad.
Patrick was on his way to matching that when life took a dramatic turn. It was May 2nd, 2 years ago. He woke up not feeling well. His sister took him to the ER.
I remember going right in, getting a room, and next thing I know, it's like a month later, my wife's waking me up telling me they have to cut my arms and my legs off.
What started as pneumococcal pneumonia turned septic. He was on a respirator for an entire month. Doctors gave him a 1% chance of survival. He beat the odds, but after 5 months in the hospital, the father of two had lost so much, including something so small that became so big.
I miss holding my little kids' hands. I miss that.
His family would give him strength, the strength to start again.
I can play video games with my kids. I can feed myself. I can walk. I can do certain things.
Like drawing, finding a way to do what some thought would be impossible. And soon, it was time to try the one thing that was such a big part of his life. His brother, his mentor, took him bowling.
He's my brother. He's got to get out and do something.
He took me bowling. He got me out of the house.
He started with a 6-pound ball and worked his way up to a 16.
I used to be a left-hander, but since my right arm is longer than my left, I had to switch everything to the right because I'm able to hold the ball with the right, and I can't hold it with the left anymore.
Inspiring those around him, including his best friend, who drives him here, drove him to rejoin the league.
When Patrick was laying in bed, and when he said, you know, he's going to bowl again, I says, when you're ready to bowl again, I'll get a team together and we're going to bowl.
Like they did in the old days when Patrick's first 300 game came at the expense of Sue's team.
We all have our issues that we deal with, but when you physically see that, it's like, you know, you can overcome anything if you put your mind to it.
The first 3 strikes I threw in a row without hands felt exactly like my first 300 game. It was so great, just that warm, awesome feeling, and it's kind of like hitting the reset button on your whole bowling career because now I have more achievements to try to get without hands.
So on this Friday night,
we've been teammates for years, and here we are. We're bowling on Friday night.
And just like the pins he knocks down, Patrick stands again, reset with the things in life that matter most.
Cherish your kids. Cherish being able to walk and talk and being able to feed yourself. Cherish the little things. That's all you can do.
Shortly after that interview, Patrick celebrated this with his team, becoming what he believes is the only amputee bowler to ever win a league championship.
I joined the military when I was 17 and a junior in high school, and I was looking for direction.
Matt Ross found that direction and a career with the National Guard. He served in combat infantry for the next 11 years, spending 10 more as a recruiter in his hometown, where he started another career as a farmer.
Spent a little over 21 years in the military and come out without a scratch on me and end up getting hurt at home.
That injury would come on April 26, 2014. Matt borrowed a neighbor's backhoe to fix a broken water line.
Then I ended up getting into the bucket of the backhoe and have him lower me down into the hole, which I've done 1,000 times.
But this time, instead of getting out to make the repairs, he stayed in the bucket, a critical mistake that would change his life in an instant. Experts believe the joystick slipped into gear, pulling the bucket closed, crushing him against its support beam.
I lived to be 100 years old. I'll never forget the sound of that bone crushing. And they figure that was, it split my sternum in half, it crushed all the ribs on the right side of my chest and broke 4 on the left.
He looked up to see his family watching in shock. Then
my wife was crying hysterically, and so was my daughter, but my daughter was also screaming at the guy in the backhoe that you're killing him, you're killing him. And I remember all this, I can hear it.
The man at the controls panicked, releasing him, only to push the joystick too far the other way, crushing him again. this time breaking his back.
My two vertebrae, T7 and 8, were actually inside my chest cavity. It pushed them so far it cut the back of my heart and the back of my right lung.
His son-in-law jumped into the hole to help.
As I was telling him, I said, I can't feel my legs, and from my knees down, we're still in the bucket. And I said, I can't feel my legs, and I said, I'm bleeding into my chest cavity.
His eyes closed for a moment. Then, as they opened again, the realization of what was happening set in.
I had to look my son-in-laws in the eyes and tell him I was dying. So.
Rescue crews arrived. He coded on the flight to Mason City, was revived and rushed into surgery once they landed.
I spent 7 hours in surgery, and I died 3 more times in surgery. And the third time I died in surgery, I was dead for 30 minutes. And I've met the doctor that massaged my heart by hand to keep me alive.
But as fast as they pumped the blood in, it was pumping right back out.
And I went through 104 units of blood, which is 5 times what your body holds.
So much the hospital ran out of blood. He had to be flown to Iowa City, hanging on with no expectation that he would get there alive. The pressure from the flight is credited with slowing down the bleeding. Now stable, Matt asked one question.
I wanted to know if I was ever going to walk again, and they wouldn't answer me.
His wife tried to convince him that there is still life without walking. The Iowa City medical staff prepared to transfer him to the VA hospital in Minneapolis.
They kept telling him, said he'll never walk again. All you got to do is get him in a wheelchair and get him mobile.
But despite paralysis from the belly button down, Matt was not giving up. He worked for weeks closely with his therapist, Chris, to get back anything he could, until one day, this day, they decided to try to stand.
You don't know the feeling you get being able to stand after being told that you'll be in a wheelchair the rest of your life.
Get it. Come on.
But without any feeling in his legs or hips, he had no balance, no way to walk. Weeks later came another call from Chris. A new piece of equipment just came in.
He said, nobody's been in it yet. And he said, I think you're the perfect candidate to come up and try this exoskeleton out.
Donated by Soldier Strong, the device supports the body while it relearns the basics of balance and movement.
And after 1 week, actually 5 days of being in that machine, it reprogrammed my brain to know that this is where your center of balance is.
2 weeks more, his knees started working. Matt was walking. So were other veterans there with him.
The one guy I met up there, he was in a wheelchair for 7 years. And they put him in that machine, and he stood up out of that wheelchair and was actually able to look his wife in the eye instead of looking up at her. And the expression on his face is, I'd spend $1 million on one of those machines.
Soon Matt was back on his farm, doing things no one, except for him, thought would ever be possible.
Don't believe what they tell you. I said, you got to keep driving forward. Don't be the type of person that takes no for an answer. Keep doing it. Keep trying. There's always that opportunity that you're possibly going to walk again.
On a quiet street in Dubuque, Iowa, there is a house that sings. On this day, Mickey Maroff is helping Kayla get ready for an important college audition.
Let's do the whole thing. Dee-da-da-dee. So you start.
Super inspiring. She always pushes me to be the best that I can be, and even when I have low times or even when I'm down, she'll always bring me back up.
Every day, student after student comes in ready for a challenge. 6 or 7 each day. It is her life.
Music for me is everything.
A life that has always been surrounded by music. It was even how she met her husband.
We were both members of the Hawkeye Marching Band. It was one of the first years they let women in, and I was one of the few women they chose.
The husband and wife would keep performing together, teach together, and raise a family together to fill this house. A house full of musicians searching for space to practice.
All 3 of our kids growing up sang tuba lip slurs before they sang any other melody. Da 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 dee da da, or da 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 dee da 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 dee da da, just on and on. We'd have me practicing in the bathroom by myself and Greg upstairs and the kids spread out it was a very loud household for many years.
Through the ups and downs of life, the high notes and yes, the sour notes, as the children grew up and moved away, it was now just the two of them, until she found herself in the fight of her life. He was there caring for her and playing her back to health. She recovered and the music played on until one November day in 2014. A complication from knee replacement surgery changed everything. A stroke stopped his music.
They told me he had a 93% chance of living in a nursing home for the rest of his life, that he'd be a vegetable, he'd never talk, he'd never walk, and did we want to just let him go? And my daughter and I said, no, we're going to give him a chance.
Together, they cared for him 24/7 until slowly he improved. But without his music, what would life be? She was determined to help him play again.
But I knew he'd recover enough to be able to do it, and I knew that's what was going to keep him going, if he was going to have something to live for.
With his right side paralyzed, there was only one option to try.
With the stroke and the aphasia, that he couldn't say what he wanted to say very well, that he could read the music again, and that he could invert it. When you play 4 valves over here, when you're over here, this feels like 1 instead of, does that make sense to you? So we had to move it all over to his left hand. So for him to be as affected as he was and relearn how to play tuba with that left hand was pretty amazing.
Then, after so much hard work, late into the night for months, he was ready to try to perform again.
I cried. Yeah, I cried. It was pretty amazing. He was really unsure of himself, so I actually sat in the back of the band with him and pointed to where he was at in the music.
They played, they taught, they lived their music until last March, a car accident left him with a brain bleed and ultimately another stroke.
I sat with him every day and encouraged him to come back, and he never did.
Hundreds turned out to say goodbye, but he wasn't done giving back, and his tuba, that left-handed tuba, still had songs to sing. Among them was Jay, a family friend, going all the way back to the Hawkeye Band days. He says what happened next at an event he was judging was destiny.
And here comes this big guy with a tuba. And he sits down, and all of us immediately recognize he reaches around the tuba the wrong way. And now he's playing on the backside of the finger paddles. We realized this guy doesn't have a right arm.
Aaron also didn't have his own tuba.
It was just amazing that this guy walked in the door, a left-handed tuba player. I said, we've got to make the connection here.
He told Mickey, who at first was unsure.
I prayed about it, and it just hit me. This is what Greg wanted.
Soon the two would meet and talk about music, talk about the future. A future with his own instrument, a gift from Greg.
The thing that has occurred to several of us that knew and loved Greg is that even in death, he's helping out one more tuba player.
From heaven, not only looking down, but listening down, hearing his instrument play.
I know he's happy. I know he affected so many kids' lives that he just, that was his way of affecting one more life. Yeah. Let's do these two first.
And Mickey continues to inspire too, one life at a time, on a quiet street in Dubuque, Iowa, in a house that sings.
Okay, let's do that a little slower then. Dee da 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 dee da 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 dee da 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 dee da.
It's a cold, quiet winter night outside of Wharton Fieldhouse, but inside, the crowd roars. The mat squeaks and squeals as one after the other wrestlers face off. Desmond Almanza among them.
The great thing about Desmond is he's got heart. He just goes out there and fights and never gives up.
On this night, looking for yet another win, another chance to beat the odds. Because when Desmond steps onto the mat, this is what we hear. And this is what he hears. It's been this way since he was 3 years old.
I was sitting in the back seat with my mother and my little brother. We were at a stoplight, and the Metrolink bus hit us from behind.
He sustained multiple fractures to his face. Surgery after surgery followed. And just as he started to recover, another setback. He contracted meningitis. Soon, vision in one eye faded. And then, near silence, his hearing all but gone. But as he grew, the little boy became more determined than ever. He learned sign language, took years of speech therapy, and then...
It was hard at first, just I didn't know how to communicate very well with the hearing loss.
He aimed even higher. He wanted to wrestle. His mother at first was anxious.
He has so much against him. You watch the other kids and the coaches are screaming for him, the teammates are screaming for him, the other parents, do this, do that, do this, do that. He doesn't get any of that. He just goes out there by himself and does it.
But he is no longer out there by himself. The coach gets his attention, and then Brenda goes to work.
Whatever the coach is talking about, if they're going to shoot. Now sometimes we have to create signs on the fly because I don't know some of the terminology that they're using, so I have to demonstrate it, or I will have the coach demonstrate what they're supposed to be doing.
The interpreter spends her days at school, her evenings and weekends in gyms, sometimes finding herself getting caught up in the excitement.
Get him to look over here. He needs to run to the head.
I am yelling like a crazy person. He's always like, calm down, calm down.
At first, some competitors shied away, not wanting to compete against someone with a disability.
There you go, there you go. I guess they weren't comfortable wrestling with that person. They probably didn't like it very much.
Don't let him up, don't let him up.
But that would pass as Desmond piled up win after win.
Yeah. Some of them would say that I probably wouldn't be able to do it, but I guess they'll prove them wrong.
Good job, Desi, good job.
Shoot him. Come here, Snick.
His coach, a wrestler who knows what it's like to be a champion, also knows what it takes to overcome obstacles to get there. He is hearing impaired too.
So I know that struggle. I know what it's like to not be able to totally hear. So he's just got to be more aware. He's got to watch. He's got to pay more attention to the visual cues. But he can still do it. He doesn't let it stop him. He doesn't let it get in the way.
And in doing so, inspiring others around him to work even harder.
He brings so much spirit a lot. The other day he was like 2 points away from getting teched, and he found a way to get that extra takedown, and we all just jumped up. We loved it.
Come on, good shots!
Proving that what some call disability can be overcome through hard work and determination.
And for him to know that he can do whatever he wants to do. And deaf people can. They can do whatever they put their mind to.
I know that this is just the beginning for him.
So on this mat, on a cold winter night, a fire burns deep in this young man, fighting for a future, one match at a time.
I feel very good about myself. I don't want to let it be a barrier for anything that I want to try to do. I would just try to break through that barrier and do the best I can.
Winner of the 152 pounds.
Do you remember the first time you were ever on stage? Your heart was beating so fast, your hands were shaking, butterflies filled your stomach. Imagine now you were a person with a disability who had worked your entire life trying to hide that, and you looked out and all eyes were on you. Until finally one day you said, no more. It was time to take center stage.
They realized at about 2 that I had cerebral palsy, just because, I would walk, but I would never let go of anything, so I was walking around the coffee table just not letting go.
Abby Curran's mother decided very early not to focus on what she couldn't do.
We have rugs all over our house, and she would never move them. I would trip and fall with the rug all the time, and instead of saying, she'd say, pick up your feet. So I think my parents taught me to be more independent and realize that, you know, we all have challenges.
That determination, that independence would propel her to push past so-called limitations. By high school, she asked, why can't I compete to be the next Henry County Fair queen? The answers surprised her.
Instead of being encouraged, everyone kept telling me, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this. And so I set out to prove them wrong.
In a perfect ending, she would have won, but she did not.
I, went and competed at the fair year after year after year and lost. And so I'm definitely a professional loser and know what it feels like. But then because of that, I know how great it feels to, win something. And
she wanted others to feel that way too. So in 2004, she started her own pageant.
Miss You Can Do It pageant.
Who hasn't tripped and fallen? And so just staying at home and being afraid to go out there and achieve our dreams is kind of ridiculous. So Miss You Can Do It is about pushing these girls to try something new.
Inspiring girls like Michaela, who has participated for the past 8 years.
There's not a lot of pageants out there that are for girls like me who have disabilities, so it's a chance for us to get to branch out and do stuff that quote-unquote normal people get to do on a daily basis.
And Lindsay.
We get to hang out with girls and get to dress up.
Who has been on the stage twice.
I know we have disabilities, but we can do it no matter what.
And 5-year-old Sydney, who has limited verbal skills, but when her mother showed her the pageant website,
she pointed at him and said, like me.
Like them, she is looking forward to being part of something so special.
Give it up for contestant number 6. Get with this, Danielle Smith.
And being around such inspiring people.
I just want somebody older for her to look up to with the same similar disability to be able to say, I can do that. I can do anything.
3 girls ready to shine in the spotlight, just like their mentor Abby, who, by the way, kept competing too.
In college, I got a flyer for Miss Iowa USA.
With the self-proclaimed professional loser, dare to be part of the Miss Iowa USA pageant.
Miss Iowa USA 2008 is Abby Curran.
I competed and ended up winning, and I still am the only woman with a disability to ever make it to Miss USA.
She stumbled there too, but just kept going, showing that what some would call a weakness is really a show of incredible strength, that a disability really just highlights her abilities.
A lot of my contestants have went on then to try out for, the high school cheerleading team or dance squad, even though they assumed that they weren't 100% capable of doing those flip-flops and the splits. Go out there and try it, and, you might be the biggest smiler instead of the highest jumper.
You're the little Miss Queen! I know! I'm so excited!
Maybe that's the perfect ending we were looking for. Sharing their talents, their courage, and their abilities. Something we can all be thankful for.
This has been a special presentation, My Ability, brought to you commercial-free by these sponsors.